Got this prepared. Another thought came around. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about being in agreement, being in accord. Do you realize that there is strength and power in agreement?
Yes.
As a pastor, you have talked to so many couples, and you realize that they are wasting a lot of energy being at odds with each other. I said, oh my God, look at what you could be doing if you just turn that stuff off and learn how to walk in agreement. It's not easy. You can say it easy, but actually doing it is not simple sometimes. Now imagine being in a church. I'm pretty sure many of us have been part of a lot of different places, a lot of churches. You know, heaven help those that have been in 10 different churches. I just shook my head. How many churches? 10. Then why are you here? You know, well, God said He could not have sent you. You've been in 10 different churches already. That was me. All right. Literally, this person had been in 10 different churches. And I'm thinking, well, what's going to be different about this one? And I tell them straight up, not a lot. Because God is still the one that organized and called this body to be together. I'll be honest with you. If you've been around me long enough, you heard me say this. Pastoring was not my choice. I do not, never want to be anybody's preacher. No one's pastor. Now give me a mop, a bucket, a broom, and some Clorox. Tell me to go clean the bathrooms. I was happy as a lark. You know, I can do that and worship, have my worship. You know, God and I carry this conversation. You know, I never could figure out why in the bathroom, every time I'm on my knees and scrubbing, he always going to start talking. But that's where I met him at. He always wanted to talk to me when I'm down on there, scrubbing that commode. I guess it's because it's a low, well, we're having a problem with my mic. I got one over here. Well, just turn this one off, and I like not having a mic in my hand. And so, I didn't choose to be a preacher. I say, I am really a very shy person. I don't like being out front. We go to conferences and stuff. My wife likes going up to the front. I find the nearest seat to the back wall. And she's walking, I'm sitting. She turned around, what are you doing? I said, we got 2 seats right here, come on. She said, I found us 2 up here in the front. And don't let her and Apostle Leon get together. I'm going to lose that battle all the time. He wants you up front too. You know. So after 20 plus years with him, now I go halfway. I don't go to the back wall, but I find a little middle ground. Hopefully they can be okay with me being in the middle, because I don't like being out front. Okay, make any sense? When I tell people that, they say, well, you don't act like that. I say, listen, there's the at home me, and then there's the ministering me. I just have to switch gears in my head to do what God says do. But typically, I much rather be out there with you guys, hanging out, sitting back there about maybe the 5th row, 4th row back, enjoying the service. So being up here, it used to be a challenge, but God's grace has brought me through it. So how did I get upon all of that? Walking in agreement. One of the things I had to learn to do, when we started out, I asked God, I told him, I said, listen, I can't do this without any help. And so if you want me to do this, you're going to have to send someone that has already been where you want us to go. And sure enough, we was at the conference down in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, and this man walked up on the stage, and I heard this just as strong in my spirit, that's your father. And I said, I bind you, devil. Get out of my head. Went back to the service, and then he said it again. So this was early in our time learning how to hear the voice of God, okay? So I said, okay, if you really you, tell my wife. Because I'm thinking, she don't know about hearing the voice of God. And I was happy, because I know she ain't know about hearing the voice of God. And she turned right around and she said, you know what? I said, what? I believe it's our spiritual father. I said, what did you just say? I believe it's our spiritual father. I just dropped my head. Because I felt like I was caught. We're not talking to you. Okay. Anyway. Siri. She have a tendency to lie. Joshua has been one of the inspirations for me in the scriptures. But when Moses died, God appointed Joshua to take over. Now, you got to understand, Joshua watched Moses for 40 plus years. Joshua saw what the church did to Moses. Joshua didn't really want none of that. So God had to keep reinforcing, don't fear them. Don't, as I was with Moses, I'll be with you. And Joshua looked at it. Yeah, I saw that worked out for Moses too. The first thing that they started doing, remember not really the first thing was, he had to deal with the rebellion of Israel. Because if he's going to lead 3 million people, and they've already been rebellious with the first leader, God had to begin to set some things in order. In Joshua 24, verse 19 through 20, it said, but Joshua said to the people, you cannot serve the Lord, for he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions nor your sins. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, then he will turn and do you harm and consume you after he has done you good. Then we'll go and pick it up in Samuel, 1 Samuel, where he started talking about rebellion. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also has rejected you from being king. Then we pick it up again in Colossians. Colossians chapter 3, verse 8 through 15. It says this, but now you yourselves are to put off all these things. Not the pastor. He got to put them off for himself. He said, but you got to do this. Anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Do not lie to one another. When I started reading that, I got the revelation up in Versailles, Indiana, just before a deliverance workshop we were getting ready to do. And I'm thinking, why are you giving me this scripture? This is for sinners. He said, no, you need to look at where you are again. You're in the book of Philippians. You're in the New Testament. I'm in Colossians. This is for Christians. Paul is talking to Christians. I said, what? Christians are to put off anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Don't lie one to another. Since you have put off the old man with his deeds and put on the new man who is renewed in knowledge according to the image of him who created him. Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcised nor uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave nor free. But Christ is all and in all. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another and forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, so you also must do. But above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you were called in one body, and be thankful. He's talking to Christians. Well, that's a lot, wasn't it? We're supposed to put, and I didn't realize that Christians still had this stuff. They still angry. They still curse. They still steal. That's why when I was out in Oklahoma, they had prayer, altar call, and everybody was rushing up to the altar, and he said, hold it, hold it, hold it. Ladies, make sure you bring your purses. Because everybody that's in here are not believers. I said, wow. All the women turned back around and grabbed their purses. He was still teaching me about the church. Yes. There's a lot of things in this thing we call the church. So when we come together, you never know what's really gathering with you. That's true. And so there's this process that we all have got to go through. In Matthew 18, verse 19 through 20, Jesus is speaking. Again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together, I'm there in the midst. But here's the problem. You may have 2 or 3 that's gathered, but they're not in agreement. It took me a while to learn that. Just by watching the saints, listening to the saints, People come up for prayer requests, and I get a little leery when they say, I have an unspoken request, but I want you to agree with me. In my younger days, I did, because I didn't know any better. But as I got older and matured, I said, no, sweetheart, if you can't tell me what it is, we're not agreeing to nothing with you. What kind of preacher are you? Like one that's trying to stay out of trouble with God. So you want to tell me what it is? I'd rather not speak, man. You can have a seat, sweetie. Thank you. For a while, people said that you are harsh, you are hard. It wasn't harsh or anything hard about it. It's just wisdom. Because I learned that people are asking for things that they want you to get in agreement with. Now, how did I find out? One letter slipped out. She was praying for another woman's husband and want me to agree that it's hers? I say, either you're crazy or I'm crazy. Which one do you think I believe? No, we're not doing that. Thank you. So being a pastor, we run into a lot of stuff. See, God didn't tell you that when he called you to the ministry. You know, he called you, this is what I want you to do. But he didn't tell you all the other stuff that's going to go along with it and all the other stuff that you're going to do. And so I had to learn, well, what is it that you really believe? What do you really believe? And what do you believe God called you to do? Well, the first thing that I had to learn and understand is that church has a government. And God is the head of the government. Now, I used to use this word with my kids when they was growing up, especially my oldest daughter. By her being the first, she had a little more liberty to talk with me. And sometimes she and I would get in these debates and arguments, and she would forget that she's the child, and I'm the father. I had to say, hold it, baby, stop. What? I didn't finish. You finished. I said, because this is the problem. You're thinking that your house is a democracy. I don't run a democracy here. So, you know, this is not a democracy. I didn't call it a theocracy. I said, this is Theophilus' house. You don't work. You don't pay no bills. Everything that you have, I gave to you. You haven't given me nothing. So you don't get a choice in nothing. You got that? And, you know, little eyes squinched and she wanted to start crying. It bothered me. Because the fact of the matter is, I had to be in charge. I had to be the one that they all went to, since I was the one that was providing everything that they needed. That was at home. Of course, when the other two came along, I sort of loosened up a little bit. You know, because I learned with the first one. The second one was a little bit easier. The third one, I was rolling. But the fact of the matter was, I still was in charge. I still called rules, but I gave them opportunity to add to what we are doing. I'll ask them their opinion. That's at home. Do you realize that God doesn't ask our opinion? But yet, we are bad enough to give him what we think he should be doing. You know, I have people all the time, well, this is what I think. Sorry, it's not actually what you think. If it's not biblically based, if it's not scriptural, can I be honest? I don't really care what you think. Because we all think, and I know good and well some of the thoughts I get are not scriptural. And I have to check my own self. I cannot let certain thoughts come out of my mind because I know it is not scriptural. Don't let someone tick me off. Come on now, we can get upset. Right? Well, I don't get as ticked off as I used to. Unless you're messing with my wife. So we believe that God's form of government for his church is theocratic in character. You might know what theocratic is. That means God is in charge. Okay? We believe that Jesus Christ is the head of the government of the church, both the church universal and invisible and the local church. So to me, God is in charge. Jesus is the head of this church. We believe that Jesus Christ governs the local church through local ministries. God chooses, calls, and equips certain people to be leaders over his people, investing them with and delegating to them degrees of authority according to his will. I do not believe that everybody that say that they're a pastor has been called of God. I don't teach that. I don't believe that. Because I've met too many of them out there. Their motives are wrong. Anytime your motive is money driven, either maybe God did call you, but he haven't got you set free or sanctified yet. Because if money is your motivation, then you are in the wrong profession. Because if money is your motivation, then you'll start fleecing God's people. And we don't believe in fleecing God's people. I can remember times when I went to church and I knew they was going to take up full offerings, regardless if you paid your tithes or not. You're going to give full offerings. So I had full pockets. I would give my tithes, when they come back, I had an offering in this one. I had an offering in this one, and when they counted, they didn't have what they thought they needed. I had an offering in the back pocket. And I said, now if you come back one more time, it's getting a little low here. And so I learned from observation, from the places I've gone, that a lot of things that was happening in church wasn't really scriptural. I teach and I believe that if God ordained a house, or if he called you to do something, if you're really doing what he called you to do, God is obligated to finance it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Just like I was obligated to finance my house, not my children. Right. Wouldn't it be ridiculous if I told my daughter, well, you need to go get some money so we can pay these bills, and she's 6 years old? That's ridiculous. If God called you to be or do, it becomes his responsibility to finance it. And how do he do that? Through people. He moves on people's hearts to give, if they really are listening to God. Now, a lot of people are mad at God, like I used to be. When he took my mother away, I prayed. Then I heard my brother say the same thing. We was praying in vain, and we was praying wrong. It's amazing. You love someone so much that you rather take their place so that they can live. You take my life, let her live. That's how we prayed. Now looking back, God didn't honor that because it was not our time to go.
Right.
It was my mother's time, whether I wanted her to go or not. So I had a 20-year anger working with God. 20 years. Wouldn't talk to him. Even though he tried talking to me. I ain't listening. I'm not doing it. And I realized that I was hurting myself. I wasn't hurting him.
Right.
But that's where I was at. Until one day he said, you might as well go ahead and say what's in your heart and what's in your mind and get it over with. I already know what's there. And I'm thinking, how you know what's in my head? The talk came back. Because he's God. I was learning. And I finally shouted it out at the top of my lungs. I am mad at you. Why did you do that? He said, well, what did I do? You killed my mother. Did I kill your mother? Yes, you're God. You can do anything. He said, no, I can't. Now, when God starts talking to you like that, it's time for you to pause and consider what he's saying. See, we believe that God can do anything. He has the power and the ability to do anything except override your will.
Yes.
He will not force you to do anything. And I didn't understand that because we was taught in church that God's going to make you. When God gets ready, he's going to make you do it. In all those years, he never made me do anything that I didn't want to do. So I had to learn and I had to make adjustments on the inside as far as bad teaching was concerned. And so churches should teach biblical truth, scripture, so people can understand this is what God really say and not really preach and teach from their own emotions. I hate to tell you this, but I did that too. I preached out of my own pain. I preached out of my own hurt because I didn't realize that I was doing that. I mean, no one told me that I was in pain. No one told me that I was hurting on the inside. I just preached fire and brimstone. Not because I loved the people, but because I was hurting. So I go back and look at some of those messages and I sit there and shake my head. Man, someone should have pulled me to the side and said, son, sit down. But no one did that. Imagine all the preachers out here that still preaching out of their own hurts, out of their own pain, and they're thinking they're teaching God's word. No, you'll pick out something that you like, and that's what you're going to preach. And what's happened, you wind up preaching and hurting a lot of people. Not encouraging them, not building them, but you're actually hurting them because you're hurting. I've talked to some pastors in the past and tried to relay this. Well, that's just you. That's just you. I said, no, that's all of us. If you are in this human body, flesh and bone body, there's not one of us that have escaped hurt or pain. And here's the thing. It never go away without you dealing with it. Trying to ignore it doesn't help you. You've got to deal with that pain. You got to deal with your issues. And God will leave you right there until you come to the place where you get sick and tired of being that way. That's where I was at. One day, out of frustration, I said, I'm sick and tired of being like this. Up one day, down a whole week, up, down. What kind of testimony was that? But still, I didn't know what it was. So I just functioned the best I knew how. All right? So God chooses us. God calls us. God equips us to be what he called us to be. We believe that church leadership and government, with the exception of very young churches, is plural and that more than one person will be involved in and have responsibility. Even here, there's more than one person involved. I may be what we call the set man, the vision holder, but I have other people that I've ordained that's also involved, that lead the church. This is why, wife gets sick, we can stay home. And the church is going to function. It's going to run. It's supposed to run that way. It shouldn't fall apart because I'm not here. It should function just like I was here. Why? Because that's how we talk. That's how we train. We multiplied ourselves so that we can go and do other things that God has called us to do, and I don't have to be the only one here. I run into too many pastors. They can't leave. They can't even go on vacation. They're afraid that somebody's going to steal the church. Well, get a clue. It's not your church. It's not my church. I hate when I hear people say, well, I'm going to Apostle Jones' church. I draw up inside. Because the truth of the matter is, only Jesus died for it. I didn't die for it. I just told you, I didn't want to be in the church. I didn't want to be no pastor. I want to just clean up. That way I had no responsibility but keeping the bathrooms clean. You go in and mess up, I come back behind you and clean it back up. I might say something to you. Hey, brother. Just because I'm clean, don't be messing my commode up like that. I was territorial. That was my job. All right? So, elders would have an ascension gift calling. What we call an ascension gift calling is like apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist. All right? Either one of those gifts, you're still going to be a pastor. I mean, for years, we operated as pastors until God began to bring people in that had the heart of a pastor. He will give you grace to do what you're doing for a season, but then when someone come in with that real grace that he'll lift it off you, it's their time to run it. You just stay and help them and do what God has called you to do. All right? They are raised up by God for the purpose of hearing his voice for that particular congregation. We can hear the voice of God for this house. Now, as seasoned prophets and apostles, we can hear the voice of God for any house. But we have no authority in those other houses. We don't have authority in this house. And the authority that we have is the authority that you allow us to have. The moment you withdraw that from us, and I have no authority in your life, then I can't help you anymore. I had one individual, because I was correcting them about their lifestyle, felt like I was trying to control. I said, really? Man, if I'm that good, this place will be running over with people. No, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to help you. But the moment they withdrew the authority I had in their life, I could no longer help. I couldn't speak into their life. Even though I see things get ready to happen to them, I just have to let it happen. Why? Because they withdrew my voice from them. I can't say anything to them because they didn't want to hear the truth anymore. So when that happens, now you're on your own. Now imagine going to churches and you're sitting there because you're not in agreement with what they're doing. You haven't allowed them to have authority in your life. And you're trying to figure out why your life is falling apart and you're in church. Why things not happening, you paying your tithes in church. Because you're not really participating, because you have not allowed anyone to really speak into your life, give them authority to make adjustments. This is what God does. I don't know about you, but he speaks into my life often. He makes adjustments in my life often. He makes correction. Anytime I step out of line, he corrects. It don't take no years to do it either. And I wonder at people, man. They can roll their eyes at people, almost knock people off over and keep right on going because they're mad and never come back and apologize. Never come back and repent. I'm thinking, what's wrong with me, God? Why is it the moment I do something dumb like that, you're right in my stuff? Because I'm listening. My prayer is, speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. Don't let me mess up. Now, all my kids are in their upper 30s. Well, let me reverse that. One is in his upper 30s, getting ready to hit 40 this year. Everybody else is in their 40s. Do I still have authority in their life? Only what they're allowed. Because they say they're grown. Because I taught them, when you can pay your own bills and feed yourself, I can give you advice, but I can't tell you what to do, not unless you allow me to. You know what the funny thing is? They don't allow me to tell them what to do until they get in trouble. Now they want to hear everything I got to say. The church is the same way. As long as everything's going good in people's lives, I don't care what you say, preacher. But let things start falling apart, I can't get away from it. I had one lady, she's never been a member of our church because she had not bumped heads. Because I told her, God did not send you here because you have something for us. What do you mean? I said, you don't have anything yet to give us. He sent you here because I have something to give you. And she refused to accept that, acknowledge that. But when she got sick, we're in Chicago ministering, my phone jumped on. Who in the world keep calling me? You know, we trying to sleep. Phone ring, ring, ring. Sounds it. Ring, ring. And found Pastor Adams, just answer it. And then I saw who it was. I almost hung it, put it back down. But my wife got a little more grace than I do. Answer it, honey. I said, I don't want to talk to this person. Answer the phone, honey.
Okay, get off my back.
This is that person in the hospital. I guess she felt like she was dying and she needed to get me on the phone. Funny thing, though, we prayed, God delivered her, and she went right back being the way she was. I say, okay, God, I did what you wanted me to do, even though my wife had to push me, but I did it. I'm saying all this for this person, for this purpose. When God establishes a house, when God establishes people in the house to lead the house, he gives them certain graces, certain anointings to be able to deal with what's in the house. So I really believe that in this house, even when people come, they're not connected, but they connect to the body of Christ. We have one now. I think she's in Mooresville. I had seen her 2 or 3 times in my life when she first came. I think on the 3rd time, this rolled up out of me. After I said, I don't know why did I say that. I say, as long as you are in the fight, I'm in the fight with you. And I said, okay, why did you say that? She's not part of this house. It was God saying it. Why did he say that? Because we need people that's willing to come in agreement with us and help us fight. Now, when you are in agreement, I mean, 2 of you are walking together, believing the same thing. There is strength in that.
Yes.
See, there is strength in that. There is no strength if we are not in agreement. If I'm saying one thing, you're saying something totally different, that's confusion. That can't be in the house of God. It can't be in your own house. It can only be one voice in that house. That voice got to be hearing from God. But when that voice starts hearing from God, all kind of chaos happens. I don't like chaos. It makes me tired emotionally and physically. I don't like that. I never allowed my children to fuss and fight with each other. I said, whatever the problem is, you better settle it, get over it, and repent with each other now. Now, if you're down in the upper floors, they still do the same thing. Do they get upset with you? Yeah, they get upset with each other. But it doesn't last. Why? Because that's how I taught them. I don't deal with chaos. I hate it. It's not going to be in my house. It's not going to be in the house of God. Because where there's confusion, God is not there.
That's right.
So when you got confusion in operation, you got demons in operation. And God is not there. God operates in peace. Everybody say peace.
Peace.
All right, let's move on. We believe that the leader will be an ascension gift. We said that already. But let me say this thought just came. We get ready to make a shift. I'm getting ready to make a shift. You don't have to do it yet, unless you choose to. Apostolic houses are different. Apostolic houses have a tendency, the services have a tendency to go longer than traditional churches. Apostles have a tendency to teach longer because there are things that have to be imparted. And you can't do it in 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So if I go longer some days, understand that we're trying to impart something into the house and to you so we all can get on the same page, all right? All right, so we believe in laying on hands. Now, we just don't lay hands on just any jack that comes through. When we lay hands on for ministry gifts and stuff here, it's because you have gone through our training. You've been around me. I know you. You know me. And so when God says it's time to set them in, then I can do that. Because I have been around you. You've been around me. I remember earlier when we was over on Loman Street, we used to have a school. I can't remember what we called it. We called it Apostolic School. It started at 8 a.m.
Oh, that one,
Yeah, that one. Everybody had to be there at 8 in place, not coming through the door. You follow what I'm saying? I always believe if you're coming through the door, you're late. It's like on your job. I worked in RJ Reynolds. I had to be on that machine before 8 o'clock. If I get on the machine at 8 o'clock, they would dock me 10 minutes. So I said, if you're coming through the door and you're late, the door will probably be locked. They thought that was hard. But I had to remind them, if you got to be there at 8, I got to be there before you. I got to be there 30 minutes before you because I got to see you when you come in. I can't come in behind you because we was training you. Sure, it was hard. But God was doing that because he was trying to build a team, trying to build cohesiveness, trying to build unity. Everybody had to read the same books I read. Actually, when people would join the church, I would give them the list of books that I expected you to read. And I didn't go by and see if you read the book. I may one day just pull a question out of one book and ask you the question. And I would know if you read the book because you can't answer the question. You haven't read nothing. I had people that finished college that never read a book. I said, who goes to college and don't read a book? They said, most of us. I said, how do y'all do that? What's that thing? Cliff notes. I said, we don't have Cliff notes here. You're going to have to read the whole book. And this individual said, this is the first time I ever read a whole book. Several books. Because we had a list of books. Because I wanted everybody on the same page with us. It was books on the prophetic. It was books on deliverance. I wanted you to read those. So when we started training, that you will understand what I'm saying. You won't be at loss. What do you mean by that? I mean, I don't, no, we wanted everybody on the same page. God has called his house specifically to teach and train on deliverance, which involves also inner healing. He's called us to teach and train prophets and apostles. So we had to get everybody on the same page. So if I had to pull a team together to minister to someone, I'd have to be wondering, can they do it? We went to Indiana, Apostle Leon's church. And all those people was on vacation. It was during the summer. And he said, I really need some help. He said, I'm short of people to minister on this Friday night School of Holy Spirit. He said, can your people help me? I said, I would like to think so. If they don't, I have really missed them all. And so they split them all up, different places. And when it's all over, they say, oh my God, they can prophesy. I say, I would like to think so. We trained them. Not patting ourselves on the back. It's just the fact that when we went through the training and we got the impartation, now we have the ability to impart. Not just the knowledge, but also the anointing and the spirit. So a lot of people out here can prophesy. They mainly prophesying from logos, stuff they learned. But we prophesy from the rhema of the word. A rhema of what God is saying. That make any sense? I need to repeat that? Y'all got that? Okay. You can tell different prophets and what camp they come from. All you got to do is listen to how they prophesy. Everybody do not do what we call a flow. Some just give you dribbles. But see, I believe in flowing prophets. They give you, if you're not careful, we have the time on, they'll give you a whole encyclopedia. You don't need a whole encyclopedia. I said, don't give them a whole book. Just give them the juice of it, the power of it, and move on to someone else. So that comes to training, laying on of hands, and being willing to be used. We tell people when we ask for a team, be the first one to jump up, because you'll be the first one we call. Be the first one to get in line to do it. Because this is how you build your prophetic muscles up. You will never build your muscles if you don't ever go to the gym. When you come to class, that's your gym. That's your gym for the prophetic. So why is he saying all that? Because we will get back to doing training. And that's what we do. All right? Discipleship, we believe in practice that. The school that I was talking about was part of my discipleship training. I had them all for about, 6 months? It's fun, wasn't it? It was intense, it was fun, and I was a strict disciplinarian, because I wanted you to be your best. Because when I signed your license, I'm not wondering about if you're going to be a kook out there.
Right.
Because I've already pushed you, pressed you, and challenged you in every way I can think of. I do that a lot of times when we have ministry gifts come in, like Apostle Leon. I say, we're going to put a tending on ministry to you. And most people become afraid. And that's what I want to see. Do you still have the fear of God in you? A lot of times people lose that. They get what we call a big head. They're not afraid. I'm the prophet. Even Bishop Hamilton said he still gets nervous. And he's been doing this 50 years. And so all that is part of what we believe here, what we teach here. Someone asked me, why you don't just open up doors of the church? I say, well, technically that is not a correct term. Technically, I left that years ago. Why? Because the church is already open. When Jesus died, he opened up the church. He didn't want to die for the church. Us priests ain't dying for nothing. Let alone give them one of our children for it. My boss said, well, don't you touch my kids. No, you don't want to do that. So I didn't die for the church. There's nothing for me to open. But you can become a part of the fellowship by being born of the Spirit of God. Showing signs of being born again. We observe, we watch, we listen. So people can be part of the fellowship just by asking, I want to be a part of this. But I want people to understand what you've been a part of. I've been called a lot of things, crazy, cool. They think they can hear the voice of God. Now everybody believes they can hear the voice of God. When we first started, they said it was crazy. Then God said, all right, do it. Now they have really gone over the moon. They think people got demons. I said, no, I don't think they have them. I know you got them. We all have something. That's part of that, being part of that Adamic nature. All right? You didn't ask for it. You was born. Probably got in before you came out your mother's womb. If not then, some of the stuff that you did in your life as you went along. Bad decisions. Open up the door. Okay? So all of these things need to be dealt with. And so that's what we do here. But we mainly do it for our house, but sometimes we open up the doors and do it for other people. All right? So those are some of the things that we believe. Discipleship is not a one-time thing. It takes a while to disciple people. But here's the clue. You got to be willing to be discipled. Look how Jesus discipled his 11, because one didn't make it. 3 years. They lived with him, walked with him, ate with him, slept around him, and watched everything. He was discipling. He taught them, showed them how to do it. And then he said, all right, now you come and do it with me. All right, now, you do it, let me watch you. Well, he was getting them prepared to be his apostles in his absence. He wasn't expecting what he had done for it to fall apart. He was expecting for it to grow. But look at what we have today in what we call the church corporate. We got all kind of mess. People don't come together. They don't like each other. Denominations, they're not as bad as they used to be, but man, they used to hate each other. You're a Baptist? We don't go around a Baptist. We are holiness or we're Pentecostal. That's how we grew up. So when God sent me to that Baptist church, I had a problem. And I told him, I said, man, I'm not going. What am I going that for? He said, because I want you to learn, so that's what you need to see. And when I got there, he showed me and blew me away. What? Because I assumed if you were coming to church, you're saved. I mean, I didn't go to church when I wasn't going to church. That'd be the last place I wanted to go. I wanted to go party. Church? I ain't going to church, man. And I'm thinking, why do these people come to church every Sunday, and never commit their life to Christ? Because they never really heard the truth. And Jesus said, the truth will make you free. I couldn't understand why I would work on them. I used to preach every fourth Sunday at this church. Every fourth Sunday. That was my time. So I had 3 weeks to work on a message. And man, I had that thing. I knew that boy back and forth. I ain't have to read the paper. I just, Sunday morning come 10:30, the pressure started. I heard God say, that's not what we're preaching today. I said, why didn't you tell me that 2 weeks ago?
Right.
This is what I want you to preach. And he just started giving you scriptures. And I'm trying to write. I said, I can't keep up. And it stopped. And I'll sit there. Preacher, the pastor come in. All right, you have 15 minutes before you come out. Sitting there sweating. My hands are soaked. I got a hank to dry my hand. I said, I can't do this. Start reading the scriptures. I said, they're going to kill me. If you want me to preach, they're going to kill me out there. He ain't say nothing. And the same script I read to you earlier, that's what I preached.
Wow.
Now, he was a hooper. I was not. So that was two things working against me. I didn't hoop. I didn't get them all stirred up in their flesh. And I basically read the scriptures line upon line. Now, I didn't know anything about deliverance then, but I know what I saw sitting out there in an audience. I started to draw up. They get on the edge of the chapter. I said, what's wrong with these people? And I just kept on reading. You put off all these things, lying, stealing. Then I found out they was been doing that, lying, stealing. Poor, even the head deacon, he was shacking for 18 years. Never married this woman. They just shacked together. How was I supposed to know that?
Right.
I was just preaching what God gave me. And then at the end of the service, the man said, you threw boulders today. What boulders did I throw? I just read the scriptures to you, man. You just throw, you think you're something, throw a boulder. I said, God, why'd you send me over here? For that very reason. 2 years to the date I was sent, I was let go. He said, now you can go. It was crazy. I learned that people on the usher boards, choir, president, they didn't know about Christ. They were just performing his service. And they thought it was on the way to heaven. A lot of churches still like that. Now, we don't talk about heaven and hell all the time. Every now and then, well, we might throw that in just to keep you on your toes. But we don't do that. Because that's not my focus. My focus, like what I said, the prophetic and deliverance. I'm really praying that God will stir up the anointing of an evangelist in this house. So that they will come and begin to teach on those things, preach on those things. It fires all up. Again, We did all that because he gave us the grace at that time to do it. I enjoyed it personally. I enjoyed going knocking on doors and meeting new people. People I didn't know. Yeah, can I pray for you? You know, they don't want to open up the door. Let me hold your hand. Once I get your hand, I'm already in the house. Let me have your hand. You want prayer? Come on, give me your hand. Now you can't close the screen door, and I'm just coming on in. Now we're getting ready to pray. You know, we begin to bind and loose and come out of them, and they get to freaking out. Why do we do that? Because in one word, Jesus. He didn't take people behind the walls and into another room and do deliverance on them. Wherever he met that devil, he dealt with that devil. Today's churches, oh, you can't do that. You're gonna scare the people away. Well, they're afraid they need to be scared away because they're not there for anything else. All right? Now let's talk about relationship to church and state. This has always been one of my favorite things. God has entrusted the church the solemn biblical responsibility of being the conscience of society, culture, and government. That is our responsibility.
Yes.
To be the conscience of this place, of this nation. Not to get in agreement with the foolishness. But the church, today's church, need a conscience itself. They've forgotten who they are. Because they're no longer the voice of God, bringing righteousness to our nation. We used to be known as a nation of God. God fear. We're not that anymore. We're a nation of crooks and thieves. Got thieves in the church, thieves in government. How many pastors they call stealing? How many pastors they call molesting children? All this is in the church. Why? Because there's no conscience. Nobody's speaking to it. I don't think we got all these apostles prophets on a national platform. Okay, moving on. As such, the church has a duty for God to speak the issues that arise from and relate to society, culture, and government. We have a responsibility to do that. Throw that away, son. Specifically, the church in the tradition of the prophets is required to call government to account before God for the action taken by the government with a view toward keeping the government in its proper role and relationship as a steward under God of the resources of the nation. Instead, we got a prophet that's going and saying, hey, you God's man. He is God's man for the hour, but what is his purpose? Anybody ever asked that question? I don't care what president is in there, what is his purpose, God? Why did you put him in there? Because I need to know. If I'm going to pray for him, I need to know what his purpose is. Since nobody ever asked me what you believe his purpose, I'm not going to tell you, so moving on. The church has a divine mandate to practice its religion as dictated by God. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The church is the blood-bought bride of Christ, of whom Jesus is the head, the Lord, and the only master. As such, we categorically reject any and all claims by the state to headship or sovereignty over the church. Now listen, when this thing began to switch, and the government began to say that they're the head of the church, remember I told y'all that. You're going to have to decide what you're going to do. When earthly governments leave their God-ordained sphere of responsibility and seek to restrain, hamper, or limit the church's obedience to Christ in all areas of life, then the church must and will obey God rather than man, and must also confront the government with this error and call it back to its proper place under God. This is why you hear me say that God is going to raise up some young prophets who don't have the crap that most of us had growing up. They don't have all the issues that we had to work through. They're going to come just about issue free. And they're going to light this place up. They're going to try to figure, where did you come from? Out of my mother's womb. Where did you come from? Well, you think you're smart. No, I'm just being God's prophet. And they're not going to put up with the foolishness like what's going on in the churches, in the government. Come on, our nation is falling apart. Now, here's the thing. I hear a lot of people say that Barack Obama started all this. Here's the truth. This just started way before he came in office. It was just on a slow motion roll. But I saw it. It starts in the church. When you see the church backsliding,
That's right.
people leaving the church, what you expect the government going to do?
Right.
The government is nothing but the people from society.
That's right.
The church is nothing but people from society. So when they go in and they're not saved, they haven't been changed. You saw what I read over in Colossians. Stop doing this. Now, here's the point. If you're born again and you're still lying, why are you still lying? You ever thought about that? If you're born of the Spirit of God and you're still stealing, why are you still stealing? Because according to what Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, any man who is in Christ is what? A new creation. Old things have what? Passed away. Behold, all things have become. But so if you still stealing, something's wrong with this picture. It's not your born again spirit that is still stealing. It's not your born again spirit that is still lying. So if you've been born of the Spirit of God, but yet you can't stop stealing, you can't stop lying, you got something else that's working. And people say, I don't believe in demons. Well, you can keep believing all you want, but baby, that's what you got. Because you can't tell me that you are saved, but you can't stop stealing. I'm not buying that. You can't stop lying. No, when the Holy Spirit come in and cleanse your spirit, that's been changed. The demons can't touch your spirit because they're sealed by the Holy Spirit of God.